Hello and welcome everyone to episode 2 of AI content creation series. I'm Alexandra, experienced marketing director here at Pixels, and your host for today's episode. Before we dive in, just two housekeeping notes. Use the chat to send your opinions, your thoughts along our conversation, and also send your support. We can't see you, but we can definitely read and see all the messages. And that is really, really cool when you post something along our conversation today. And if you get a question, and I see we already are getting some in the chat, send them in the chat or head over to the Q&A button and submit them. And we will do our best to address all of the questions as we roll through today's session. To build today's narrative, our team has had hundreds of conversations over the past few months with brand teams across creative e-commerce marketing in Europe and North America. We hosted interactive discussions at Flow events in Los Angeles and Barcelona. We had numerous calls, chats on LinkedIn, in the hallways, and we've brought together the statements about what the future of the studio looks like. And today, together with our special guest, we would like to have an honest conversation and a sense check on where it is all going. So it is my pleasure to invite here on this virtual stage creative operations leader and former head of studio at Net-a-Porter, Alison Leibovitz.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be joining this conversation.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Where are you joining us from today?
I am in New Jersey, right outside the city. So yeah, and the sun is kind of out. We'll take it.
Awesome. Yes. Well, we can't wait to be in New York in 3 weeks, but more about that at the end of the episode. So to get us started, I actually would like to ask you and all of our viewers a question. 3 years from now, what will this studio actually be called? Alison, what do you think? Is it going to be Content Factory, Content Lab, or Generative Content Studio? And for all our viewers, go ahead and vote for your selection. Yeah, Alison, what do you think?
I am leaning towards Content Lab. I think that feels sort of the experimental, exciting place where creative and technology are going to combine. So I'm going to go with Content Lab. It looks like others agree.
Yeah, that's true. That seems like where the majority of our viewers, at least, are thinking that's where the direction is going. I'll keep the poll open and we'll share the results as well after the session. But for now, I would love to get us started with these key statements. And this first one is quite related to the change of the name of the studio itself. So, the function, ownership, and processes of the studio will move much closer to the business. It will gain more influence and collaboration with marketing, merchandising, and e-commerce teams. Alison, what do you think about this?
So yeah, I think studio is definitely moving upstream. I think we've always sat downstream. All of those decisions, marketing, merchandising would make decisions, and studio just executed it. But as our content is becoming more and more important, we're going to be driving the business. So studios can't operate in silos anymore. So no more hiding. I think we're definitely moving upstream. We're going to have a seat at the table, and we're going to be much closer to these core business decisions for sure.
And I believe this shift actually has already started happening. I've been within this industry for the past 4 years, and I can clearly see the change in the conversation that the studio leaders are involved in and how closer to the business that is coming. And a follow-up question here. Out of these three, where do you think the studio will actually sit in 3 years? So which department?
I don't know if it's going to be under one specific. I think it's going to really be an intersection of all of them. I think we are going to have all of those. I mean, we may see blurred lines even between marketing, e-commerce, and operations in 3 years' time. But the most important part, I think, is that the studios are not going to just be supporting the business anymore. We're going to be in a prominent role where we're going to be driving the business. So I think it's going to be an intersection of all of that, really.
Yeah, so almost a department of its own that is in a very close
Yeah,
collaboration
I think
with all of the
it's a
other.
it's an exciting like rebranding, I think, for a lot of companies. I think that's what we're going to see. So Creative Lab might be, a new heading of all of it. Who knows? But yeah.
Yeah. And well, that shift actually becomes even more obvious when we turn to our second statement. Content creation demand and volumes will not just double or triple, it will grow 10x or 100x compared to today. How does that feel?
Yikes. But I think, yes, right? Our initial reaction is wow. But it's going to happen and it's already happening. And I think this creative demand, yeah, it's going to skyrocket, but not, it's going to skyrocket because that's what the customer is going to be expecting. Like they're going to be used to this constant flow and creation of new content. So historically we've always had seasonal campaigns and we would launch them on very specific schedules. I think it's going to be a constant flow. um, just and then that means we're going to be able to react better to customer needs, to trends, to performance of a business. But there's going to be this constant flow and the customer is going to expect it. The challenge is going to be that as we create all of this content, is it staying on brand? And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for companies and creative teams.
Yes. And do you feel like because of that increase in demand and, of course, the new technology, do you believe that most of the visual content will be created digitally in 3 years' time?
I think a large portion of it is. I mean, we're already seeing that, and especially in high volume content where speed and variation and scale and all of that is really important. So, yes, I definitely think a good portion of it is going to be digital, but I don't think it's going to eliminate the real physical production. I think it's going to become this hybrid where brands are going to have to find that balance and that we're going to have to be intentional in where we use humans, where those humans are actually adding value, being the creators, actually, creating real content, especially, I'm speaking of the luxury market and our customer. That emotional connection is what sells, and that's what's so important. So I think it's really going to be about finding that right balance. And I don't think we're going to be completely one way or the other. I think it's going to be really intentional on where we use humans in that creative process.
Well, I couldn't prepare a better transition to our next statement, which is the production will shift from traditional to hybrid workflows with integrated AI steps that will evolve as tech capabilities grow.
So yeah, so again, this isn't going to be overnight, but again, I think it's this hybrid. We all need to get ready for this. That it's AI is not going to replace a workflow, but we're going to have to figure out where we're embedding it and like where it makes the most sense. We're already seeing that in what we call those invisible tasks, all that repetitive manual work, retouching, removing backgrounds, name filing, file naming, and cropping, all of that stuff that, actually creatives don't really enjoy doing and spend their time on. That repetitive stuff, we're already seeing it. We're using it. It's making a difference. We are going to move to a place where we're going to allow creatives to be creative. And I think that's actually really exciting is that all that busy work is going to be taken care of and you can actually now focus on truly being creative.
I have one follow-up question to this. What is the next thing out of this invisible task that you actually would like for AI to take over that is not fully there yet or hasn't been
Oh,
there yet recently?
oh gosh, if I can wave my magic wand. I think it's, you know, I don't know actually. I don't have it. I mean, we're seeing it so much, but again, I think it needs to be right and it has to be a real tool that's going to allow people. So, I think there's a huge opportunity in production and planning and getting our producers really out of the weeds and more higher level. And I think there's definitely going to be more and more advances in that AI area that's going to just help. Once everything flows really well and works, we know that it's a ticking machine. So I think there's definitely a bigger opportunity in that area that I'm excited about.
And speaking of producers and all of the
Hmm.
other roles, the next
Yeah.
statement, I know may be a little bit uncomfortable, but based on all the
Mm.
conversations and all of the trends, this is where the industry is heading. Studio teams will become smaller, and some of the roles will shrink significantly or even disappear. For example, hair and makeup, on-set roles, model coordinators, and so on. What's your take on this, Allison?
So yeah, I think this is the part no one likes to talk about. And I do think the reality is that some of our teams are going to become leaner, especially as we sort of, have these repetitive manual work being taken over by the tools. Um, like I was saying in retouch, like all that repetitive work, I think, will be done, but I'm not really looking at it as a complete replacement and an elimination. I think it's really going to lead to a redesign of our work, of our organizations and our roles. So, speaking of retouchers, for example, you're not spending all that time on that first pass. You're now really focused on that high end retouching and quality control. Or a writer may have their first pass written for them and now they're becoming editors. Coordinators, like I said, I'm hoping we're going to get out of the weeds and they're going to be the people that are orchestrating all of this magic. So yes, I think there will be a place where we might get leaner, but I think the bigger focus is in how we're redesigning these roles and what that function and focus will really truly be on.
Yeah, definitely feels like this shift is happening and this I don't like the word restructuring, but rebuilding of the essence
Rebuilding.
of the roles is happening across all industries. I can tell from my perspective that is happening as
Hmm.
well across marketing, across everything. It's
Yeah.
yeah, there is definitely that rebuild happening, and it is an exciting opportunity in a way because you can own that rebuild.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a lot of excitement, I think, right? It's like what I'm saying is that we're going to let creatives be creative. I think that's really exciting. And how we're going to redefine these roles.
And this is exactly what
There
our
you go.
next statement is about, that the essence of creative roles will shift from idea creators and content makers to orchestrators and curators. Curation, taste, and creative choice will become more prominent skills.
Yes, this is the exciting part. Like, this is what gets me exciting to talk about. It's like we are going to shift from just this execution to actually having time to create creative work. And so I think the expectations are going to be raised. And I think where those true creatives are, where you have that passion for your craft and where you're really invested, AI is going to make it easier for you to really focus on that. And I think that's where the shift's going to be. You're going to become like this creative maker or an idea creator. You're going to become an editor. I think the curation, like everyone's going to be able to create so much content that the curation and the editing of that content is what's going to distinguish brands. And I think that's what's going to help a brand stand out is really having that true vision and being able to tell that story and make it make sense for your specific brand. And I think that's what's going to be the most valuable is knowing what ideas are right for you and what ideas are not, and how is the customer resonating at the end of the day is going to be the most important driver.
And to cultivate that taste and curation, because it is hard in that volume of information, in that noise of content that will be created, to stay true to brand DNA, to be able to distinguish between what is relevant, what should go to the customer, what should not be put further. What are these new skills that are becoming essential for creative professionals?
So the skills are going to be human. I think it's going to be creative judgment. It's going to be this, what we're saying, taste, knowing what's good and what's not, um, communication, collaboration. We were talking about at the beginning, working across all those other departments. Like that's going to be so important. And that's such an important skill that someone is going to be able, needs to have. Um, and so again, it's like this emotional intelligence, I think. We all can learn these tools, but I think the important skills that are going to really stand out are going to be those people that can work through this change, can be adaptable, can communicate, can be open to change, and ultimately just be curious.
Very well said. I have
Yeah.
one question about the skills. Given our first statement about the shift upstream closer to the business, what do you think about the business acumen and overall understanding how business operates and getting closer to that? Would that become an important area of skills?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, we're going to have a seat at that table. And you're going to be with higher upstream. That's what we keep saying. So, yeah, being comfortable talking to other departments, talking to execs, and being able to share your ideas. Because, again, with the ability to create this much content, we've got to get it right. And it's going to be really going to be from the start of the business in those conversations.
Very well said. And we have just over 2 minutes left. And I have one question that shifts us a little bit from this optimistic picture of the future. But what can make a studio irrelevant in 3 years?
I think it's going to be those that fail to evolve, those ones that still want to work in those silos. Like we've got to break it down, and you can't be separated from the rest of the business. And I think that, like I keep saying, having that seat at the table is going to be so important. Um, and then I really think it's going to be, the ones that focus on their people. Like at the end of the day, that this is a change, and this is the biggest change that any of us will face, any of us will lead through. And I think we have to remember the human piece of all of this. And like I said, the humans are going to be the differentiator in all this content creation. And I think that we need to really be focused on our teams. um, Technology changes a lot quicker than humans change at the end of the day. We know that, right? Especially creatives. So I think, it's leading through this change, and it's going to be truly personal. So I think, yeah, we've got to really make sure we're focusing on our people and our teams.
After all, humans are that engine, and are the
Yeah,
engine and the ones who are creating the brand's DNA that makes the that differentiation.
absolutely.
Amazing. Allison, that was a very inspiring conversation. Even though some may feel that the future is all doom and gloom, actually, I hope this conversation gave you a lot of hope and positive outlook at what is happening right now in the industry and what the opportunities are there. And I am personally so excited to see how creatives own that change and really rebuild their roles to own their bigger voice and really have that seat at the table that they so well deserve.
Absolutely.
And Yeah, well, we have only 20 minutes for these episodes because time is precious, especially in the fast paced world of AI that we live in. But I want to mention that next week, same time, next Wednesday, there will be episode number 3 of AI content creation series. And if you join live, you will see our CMO, Katrina Rasmussen, and our CEO, Thomas Walfol, talking about the current state of AI and e-commerce fashion. And if you follow Katrina on LinkedIn, and if you've ever met Thomas, you know you're in for an entertaining and very insightful conversation. So thank you so much, Allison, for joining us. Thank you, all the viewers who joined us live, or if you're watching this on the recording, thank you for taking the time. Hope you have a great day wherever you are, and hope to see you next week on episode number 3. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you.